This is Avi for The Art of Nothing, and in this episode, we're going to be exploring why it's not what you say, but the connections that you form with your scene partners and your scene partner. I'm going to give us two quotes to work off today because these two quotes really resonated with the contents of this specific episode. And I'm sure they're going to pop up in later episodes as well because they're really crucial. And the first one is kind of long, so just keep it in the back of your head as we move through this video. Quote, "Nothing that we say to each other is innocent of emotional manipulation. Everything we do on stage is to affect each other in some way. And if we notice very carefully how those swine people are trying to get to us and at us, sometimes I suggest that we perform on stage as if we're a whole bunch of raving paranoids. Nothing that I hear is going to be simple. Nothing that you say to me is going to be accepted at face value. We always mean to say something." Unquote. And that's by Del Close, of course, one of the founding fathers of modern improv comedy in our generation. The second quote, short but still very effective. Quote, "Slow motion will get you there faster." Unquote. That's by Hoagie Carmichael. So keep these two quotes in the back of your mind because they're important. Of course, every quote is important that I say. What do I mean by connection? The definition of connection is to be linked, to be bound to something else, whether that is a physical object or another person, or it could even be an idea or a belief, right? You are linked, you're connected, right? You're joined. And a lot of times, improvisers focus their energy inwards, right? They want to think of how to be more funny, how to be more clever, how to say this, how to say that. When is the best time for me to come on so I can do this great big thing that I've been planning? And the more I do improv and the more I do my research on this content to provide you guys, the more I start to realize is that I shouldn't be focusing my energy inwardly when I'm on stage, of course. I should be focusing it outwardly on my stage partner or my stage partners if I'm performing with the group. This is what creates that connection, that bond between improvisers on stage when you're doing a fresh new scene. It's the fabric that's woven in to the scene where all the funny is available to happen to you, right? Once that connection is made, you can play with that. You can be more creative in your ways. So focus your energy outwards if you want to be more, more connected to other people. You can do this in real life and on stage. It's the same really, which is really cool because you can always be practicing improv wherever you go. Here's another little interesting insight that I was kind of reading and thinking about. Words, dialogue can actually be a distraction to what's really going on. This is really counterintuitive because we usually think that we need to talk a lot to get somewhere, right? And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. I've seen some scenes where no one even talked and I was laughing my ass off, So what this says is that your nonverbal communication is just as important as your verbal communication, even maybe more so. And nonverbal communication is a muscle that needs to be developed, right? You can't just go into it cold. Otherwise, it's going to feel awkward and weird, and it's not going to look right or sound right, depending if you make noises or not. And here's an exercise to try with your team or by yourself. I would actually probably just do this by yourself, with a team, not by yourself, because it requires people, obviously. Sit with your team in a circle for maybe 5-10 minutes tops, nothing crazy, and look, stand or sit straight so everyone's, postured correctly, and just look at each other's eyes, and don't try to think what the other person's thinking about. Don't try to do anything. Just sit and look at that person's eyes. And when you feel like when you feel like you're ready to move, you'll naturally move to someone else's eyes, right? And then you'll keep going. Now what this is really doing is training your subconscious, right? To say, okay, I'm here with you. I'm present. I'm connected with you. No matter what. Whatever's going to happen on stage, I'm here. I'm here with you. So try that. 5-10 minutes, maybe before a practice. I would suggest doing it before practice so you feel more connected to each other. And it is really cool because you actually do feel more connected to each other. You feel like you know what the other person's going to do, and vice versa. You can see the ideas come before they're even developing on stage. This is something that you can learn, you can practice, and you can actually do. So try that out. Another great, technique or practical way of forming connections and being more present is take your time. Take pauses. Silence is so underrated at improv. You don't always need to be talking when you're doing improv. Silence is actually amazing if you want to generate a lot of funny. When you don't respond to something, it's hilarious. But don't only slow your speech down, but slow your body down, right? And just be aware of what's happening when you do that. You'll start to feel more relaxed the more and more you do it at practice and on stage. You really will. And there's a couple reasons why you want to be doing this. When you start to slow down and take your time with improv and just slowly, maybe saying a couple things here, doing a couple things here, and then just slowing the scene down maybe by just 50-60%, you'll actually find what the scene is about much faster than if you were just doing all this talking and doing this behavior and this action, which is kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. We're usually so tuned to all right, let's get the who, what, where, when, why out as quickly as possible, then we can figure out the scene. Well, no, that stuff will come, that's good to start off with, to get an idea for a beginning improviser, okay, this is what, I have to do as an improviser, but eventually you can let go of that. You can let go of that and let that who, what, where, when, why just find you, by just slowing down and just taking in each behavior, each piece of dialogue, each word in, and just processing it for a few seconds, and that gives your partner a chance to process it as well. And strangely enough, if you're both connected, by the way, this generates a lot of wow, these people are connected feelings. Strangely enough, what ends up happening is you and your partners will start to verge onto the same ideas, right, and the same concepts. So you'll know where the scene is going before you even do it. And that was true in the concept before too. So yeah, the more you slow down, the more you'll start to see you'll be doing things without even thinking about them. And it's almost as if someone else is doing them to you, which is which is great. That's where we want to be in improv. That's where we generate that flow that I've been talking about in previous videos. And I'm going to talk about flow in a lot more depth in a different video, but I wanted to stick to this because this is very foundational. A lot of this stuff is very foundational. So if you can get your connection down, essentially, the dialogue, the behaviors, the actions will come to you. You won't even have to think about it. If you just slow down, take your time, be present, develop your nonverbal communication skills, and focusing outwardly on your partner is paramount in generating the connection that you want, to having the dialogue and the action, the behaviors, and the ideas come to you instead of you going to them. So that's cool. That's really cool. You can even do this in real life, and you can practice these nonverbal communication skills and all these things I'm talking to you about in real life, so that when you're in practice on stage, you've developed those muscles, and you can be that beacon of hope for improvisers that you're working with, so that they can say, oh yeah, he does do that. Let me see how I can do that too, and we can all become good improvisers. An exercise I wanna throw out there that I think is really practical and helpful is, and you can do this in real life too, although it might get awkward, so just be socially present, is if you're in a scene or in a real life conversation, wait 2 to 3 seconds before you respond. Let whatever that person said affect you, hit you. Let it be processed by you. And this is how you develop those nonverbal communication skills. This is where you develop that connection. Silence is huge. So be silent consciously when you're doing a scene or in real life. Let things affect you. Let things process in your mind before you respond. This is a great way to develop this muscle. And also just to, think before you do things. If it's in a real life situation and you usually get angry, taking that extra 2 to 3 seconds just to be like, okay, I'm angry. Why did that person just say that? Okay, this is how I'm gonna respond. You have the power. You choose what to say, not the other way around. You don't let your emotions control you. You actually start to control your emotions. And when we do this on stage, we do this naturally on stage because we choose to respond, right? That's why improv is so amazing. If you are consciously aware of your silence, right, and you're thinking about how to respond, that's amazing. If you know that you should get angry at what this person is saying because that's what you would do in real life, you're choosing to be angry, which means you have a choice. You could do any range of emotion. You can be sad, you can be happy, you can cry, you can dance, you can jump up and down. And that's powerful. Improv is very powerful in that respect. And it shows you, if you mimic that in real life, it will show you how you can be a master of your own emotions, right? It's powerful. It's very powerful stuff. The more you practice at it, the more you can choose to be happy, sad, angry in any situation or whatever emotion you want. So silence is important. Don't underestimate it. So remember a couple of key points here that I want to bring back to kind of like personal development, spiritual work through our improv. Words are kind of just like thoughts on stage. They kind of just get splattered out there, right? They don't mean anything unless we give them meaning, unless we choose our words carefully. Hence, that's where the silence comes in. Unless we choose our behaviors and words carefully. So be aware of that. Let things affect you. Be aware of how they affect you. And notice, this is very subtle, notice that we have to believe our thoughts on stage in order to be successful in improv. And when I say thoughts, I mean the words that are being said on stage and the behaviors that are being said on stage. That belief in what's happening on stage creates that connection, that outward energy. Like, oh my God, did he just say that? This is how I'm going to respond, and this is how we're going to be connected in this moment. And by the way, don't get too don't romanticize connection too much. Connection can also mean you're both angry at each other and you're connected. You both hate each other. You both want to kill each other and you're connected. So it's not only positive, but it's also negative. Just be wary of that. Just because you're upset with each other doesn't mean you're not connected. You can be connected. Those are actually in the moments where you're most connected and you don't even realize it. You're completely unaware of it. So be aware of those moments. And to bring this into real life, if you observe yourself throughout the day really, really well, you start to notice that our thoughts, our thinking processes run our entire life. And we are what we think a lot of the times. The Buddha was right. We are definitely what we think. And you can change that. You can do something about that with some of these great exercises and this information, this content. But we're unaware of it. We're unaware of it most of the time. So become aware, because the connection that we form on stage and off stage, the silence, the nonverbal communication, the words that we choose carefully, the way we let things affect us, and the way we let our behaviors to affect us and other people. That's where the funny is. That's where the humor is. That's where it lies. And it's what's true. It's what's true about real life and in improv. So you can see the parallels here, right? And that's really, really beautiful that we can be aware of this on stage and also be aware of it in real life as well. Improv is is as close to real life. When you're doing a scene on stage and you don't know what you're doing, improv is the closest thing to real life that we can possibly imagine. And in some cases it is real life, because we have no idea what we're doing a lot of the times. And if you're aware of that and if you're conscious of it, you can start to see that and you can start to learn how to master your own self and be a really good improviser, as well as move your personal development along and your spiritual development along. So that was this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please hit the subscribe button for me for more content every week. I'm going to be trying to release a video once per week. And hit the like button for me too if you enjoyed this content. And I hope it was useful to you guys. Please, leave your comments down below, and I will read them. I love reading comments. And I will see you next time with more.